Control is Oklahoma's #1 place for shade tree mechanics and auto enthusiasts to get in on the conversation. Cruise Control is Oklahoma's only statewide call-in automotive talk radio show. Brought to you by Radio Oklahoma Network. Live from Valvoline Studios, here are your hosts, Mike and Dan.
We made it to show number 2.
Well, top of the evening, Dan. How are you?
You know, it's good. It's been pretty good. It was a little sprinkling a little bit. It's got kind of cold, and it's really killing me, but I'm still here.
Yeah, you need to be careful on your way home tonight, because it's supposed to start having freezing rain and whatnot coming down soon.
Wow. Well, you know what? We may just have to talk about tires.
By golly.
I think we're going to do that in a half hour. The second half hour, we'll talk tires. First half hour, we're going to talk fluids.
Which should probably be the more crucial point at the moment anyway, with the freezing rain getting ready to start rolling in.
Well, yeah, it is. And fluids are important, too, because they keep your car going. They maintain your car's health, so to speak. And we've got, again, on our line with us, RSA certified mechanic, Rennick Behandus, all the way from Big Fat Cushing, Oklahoma. You there?
How you guys doing?
Fantastic.
El Fabuloso. How are you, Riddick?
You got the drizzly, rainy stuff going down there too.
Not too bad. Dogs are hiding in their little dog house. It's looking kind of dark and dim, but not too wet. Just a little cold.
Well, that's good for you. It's up here. It's miserable. But hey. We're here to talk about cars and car stuff and, entertaining things like that. We got a great interview coming up tonight. We'll be having
talk about Marty from Pops?
Marty from Pops.
Yeah,
he's going to be on
I'm looking forward to that one.
Here in a little bit. And
love that place.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. We're going to have some fun. We're talking fluids. Now, when I say fluids in cars, what's the first thing that you think of, Rennick?
Well, I would have to say my oil, my brake fluid, my washer fluid, gasoline, rear end fluid, differential if you were driving a four-wheel drive vehicle. And that's about it right about now.
Well, you're talking rear end differential. Now, if you're driving a rear-wheel drive car, you have one anyway, regardless of four-wheel drive or not, correct?
Correct.
All right. See, I know a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one that people usually don't think of. But yeah, rear end is definitely important, just as important as everything else.
Yeah. What you're saying is you don't want to neglect your rear end.
That's right. In your relationships with your girlfriend or boyfriend or whoever that object or person or living creature may be.
All right, now. So
we're talking about carriages and rides.
So let's talk about that. So your rear differential, which is kind of funny because I hadn't even thought about it. In all the cars I've ever owned, personally, I don't remember going, man, I need to change my fluid, my differential. And it's really kind of funny because you'd think, I'm sure if you pick up nobody ever does this, if you take out your owner's manual and actually read the maintenance instructions, you'd see it. But how often, what do you think? How often should you do that?
Well, Dan, that really depends on the driving times the vehicle has. Like, how often do you drive your car? Are you in-town driver? Are you, cross-country driver? It really depends on the person driving it and how much they drive it, or how much wear and tear they put on their vehicle. Usually, a transmission, for example, is an annual meaning yearly check, and that's you usually change it every year, depending on how often you drive it. The average driver, you would be changing it every year. Now, with your rear end, you would want to do it either yearly or every 2 years. Either way, every time you check your fluids in your car, whether it be your oil, your transmission fluid, all of that, when you're doing your regular maintenance, you always want to check it regardless. Now you'll know that your rear end will need change when the color of your rear end fluid changes. If it's not a deep red and it starts to get really dark and black looking, you will need to drain that.
Good to know.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting because, like I said, it's something that I never really thought about. I never thought about before you mentioned it, actually. That's what mechanics are for. They're kind of like priests. They make you feel guilty for not taking care of your car.
That's right. But, my dad always told me when I was growing up doing mechanics with him also, he'd always say, you want to drive a really bad car, drive a mechanic's car because he'll neglect it the most because he's working on everyone else's stuff.
Yep. By the time you get home, you're done turning wrenches.
That's right.
So what do you know about power steering and power steering fluid?
Power steering and power steering fluid. Well, depending on the age of the car, whether you have rack and pinion steering or just your regular old average power steering pump that attaches to your steering unit, the older the model, the simpler it is. But usually, you don't ever change it. The only thing you really have to worry about is it topped off? Is there any leaks? Is there any coloration difference in the fluid? Which usually, because it's steering, it's not really. Basically, all the power steering fluid is for the hydraulic system for your steering itself to make turning the vehicle and all of its weight easier on yourself.
Yeah. Hey, man, that's great. A lot of great information. And again, fluids. It's the topic of the half hour. That's the music tells us we got to go pay some bills. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to Cruise Control from Radio Oklahoma Network.
Series helps you get the most success out of every acre with 170 horsepower, unprecedented comfort, and premium performance features. Right now, a Kubota M7 can be yours with 0% financing for up to 84 months and a generous competitive trade-in bonus. The M7 is Kubota's smartest and largest tractor ever. Add one to your year-end checklist. Call toll-free 1-800-794-4992 for details about cost and terms. Power and other specifications are based on various standards or recommended practices.
Well, neighbors, it's 2016, and Stillwater Milling Company is celebrating 125 years of service to Oklahoma agriculture. Longevity doesn't just happen. It's a matter of being innovative, providing products customers want and need, and backing them up after the sale. Stillwater Milling Company provides all your agricultural needs in Stillwater, Claremore, Davis, and Perry, and they distribute their A&M livestock feeds at over 125 dealers across the state. Call Stillwater Milling Company at 800-364-6804 for the A&M dealer nearest you.
It only takes a minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it at doihaveprediabetes.org. But you're probably not going to, are you? Kids, work, listening to the radio. You're busy, which is great because busy people can't get prediabetes. Oh my, I read that wrong. They can. Should have worn my glasses. So visit doihaveprediabetes.org and take a short test because prediabetes can be reversed.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
I'm Paul George of the Indiana Pacers. When I was 6, my days were spent playing basketball. When I was 6, my dream was to make it to the NBA. When I was 6, my mom had a stroke. So I want you to learn to spot a stroke fast. F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. I'm Paul George. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Yep.
And we're back.
Every time that comes back from commercial, it just gets me all hyped.
Gets my blood pumping, my heart beating. Hey, Dan, I got us a lovely caller.
Ooh, we got a caller. Who we got on the line?
We got Thomas from Stillwater.
Ooh.
Thomas, you with us?
Yes.
How are you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing great.
Fantastic.
So what's the question you got for Rennick here, buddy?
Well, I just had a question about my brakes. I was just wondering how to keep the right pressure in them.
Well, right pressure. So what's going on with the car? Is it having a hard time stopping, squeaking?
Yeah, it does.
All of the above, huh? When's the last time that you serviced your brakes?
Well, I put a set of new brake shoes on it about 6 months ago, and ever since
6 months ago. Okay, usually, I think I know what the problem is. Usually, first and foremost, what I would do is I would, of course, pop the hood. You all know where the latch located is for your to pop your hood in your car. So you pop. All right. So some people they don't. So we're gonna break it down Barney style, like the big purple dinosaur. We're gonna pop the hood. We're gonna pop the latch on the hood. We're gonna lift the hood. We're gonna locate the reservoir for the brakes, and that's located on the master cylinder. If you don't know what that is, the top of the brakes, the lid is usually labeled. What you want to do is you want to open it up and check your level first and foremost, because if your level is not correct, your brakes are going to be extremely soft. Also, if you had just had them serviced 6 months ago, you might have air in the lines. So what I would do is I would top that reservoir off, and then I would bleed the brakes. Now, bleeding the brakes, this is how you would do it, is you would jack the car up, and this is where I would caution everyone. When you jack a car up, make sure you know how to jack the car up properly, and don't ever leave the car on the jack when you're working on your brakes. You want to put it on jack stands. So you need to look in your owner's manual. You need to see how much your car weighs and what kind of jack stands you need to get, what size, because each size has a different weight limit. So you need to put it on jack stands. Okay, so you have your jack, you got your jack stands, and you're on standby. We're looking at our car, we're sizing it up, we're getting our jack, and we're putting it under the car, and we start to actuate the jack, and we want it to set it on the frame just so ever slightly. Don't crank up on the jack and really set it in there and to where you can't move it. And then you want to loosen up your lug nuts. And after you got them loose, you want to jack your car up. You want to slide your jack stands underneath there, and to where you can get your tire off. You want to pull your tire off. And what you're going to see is you're going to see your rotor. You're going to see your caliper, which holds your brake pads. You're going to see a line that goes up into your master cylinder. And this is what draws the fluid from your master cylinder into your slave cylinder, into your caliper to actuate your brakes. On that caliper, there is a little pitcock valve. It's usually on the back side, right where that line comes in. Right next to it, there's going to be that little pitcock valve. Usually on a Taurus, I believe it is 10 millimeter that you would use, depending on the year. And you want to, it's easier if you have somebody with you pumping the brakes, because they're going to need to pump the brakes. And you want to pump the brakes up as much as you can, and to where you can't move that pedal anymore, and then you want to hold it, have that person hold it, and then you want to crack that valve open. Remember, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. If you don't remember that, you'll snap that pitcock valve off, and then it's going to be a whole world of hurting then. So once you crack that valve, you're gonna have air probably spurt out. As soon as the fluid starts to flow out of there, then you want to shut the valve quickly. And while you're doing that, that person is still holding those brakes. So you want them to pump them up again a couple times and repeat the process until there's nothing but fluid coming out of there. Now keep in mind, with that little bit of fluid coming out, that means there's a little bit of fluid coming out of that master cylinder that's not going to be replaced. Now you're going to have to replace that with the brake fluid that you're going to buy from probably O'Reilly's. Pour it in there. It's usually about like .3 or whatever, whatever your car takes. You want to look at your manual and see what kind it takes. Usually, all the cars around here, is about the same. So, right. Unless you got something really, really fancy, and then you shouldn't be touching it at all because you have a warranty, and you need to be taking it to the dealership.
Use the warranty.